smoke on one.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was really weird, but this was. I mean, we ended up with like 265,
Did you want one? Yeah.
which was way above.
Like anything,
Anybody's
these
the
things are floppy.
closest thing to anybody was way below that. So I was like, no, I want this deal to work, but you know, you need to find it.
I
You know?
do, yeah.
I mean,
Welcome.
you guys extended, and I told
Those
you
are
I
all
didn't really
180s, yes.
extend.
Well, this is
But I would
interesting. It goes on the
extend
back of your
because I-
phone and multiple cars. So look at this.
We're
When you
gonna
push
fund
it,
like
it
3
becomes
days
a
prior to.
kind of like a different version
Oh,
of
cool.
Now we're pushing it's end of the month.
Hey,
Yeah.
beautiful. Hey, sorry, I'm like, oh yeah, I did. Traffic is like brutal.
Oh, you just kept getting worse and worse.
Thank you. I have the Shinnecock listing.
Oh, yeah.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Oh,
I'm so
Gotta
sorry.
do business, huh?
Hey,
How you doing? Nice to meet you.
good to meet you too.
It's a networking event.
Well, I'm ready to start whenever, and people can kind of trickle in. I know with the weather today.
We can close
Yeah.
the door, they can come in through the front hire, whatever you guys want to do.
I don't mind leaving the door open. Jazz, did you want to
Okay,
get
I'll
us
go.
started, or?
Yeah.
Tight squeeze. Did you guys get stuck in traffic?
It's like really bad. I mean, it's
Yeah.
typically bad on 35 coming from the south, but it was really.
It was really bad,
people were
and it
really
just
taking
kept
their
getting
time.
worse and worse.
You know, I did Mopac, and after about 45th Street coming south, it was smooth going. So I'm glad I took that route, because it sounds like
Yeah.
I-35 was rough.
It was rough.
Maybe there was
was
some wrecks
rough.
or something.
No,
really
it's
rough.
just people,
Well, luckily we have that new tollway, so,
I love that. Love the.
well, good morning, guys. We'll go ahead and get started just because if anyone else trickle in, I know we had a couple people cancel. And the cool thing is that with Trinity Title, we like to offer, let's just say I like to offer classes in 2 different locations to make it convenient, or for people that don't want to, don't have the opportunity to have a chance to take it on a specific date, they can take it at a different time or a different location. And we have the honor and the opportunity for you to get knowledge from 2 resident experts that we like to partner up with. And we don't just offer classes with people just to offer this information. We know it's going to be valuable. We know that it's going to be something that it's going to be tangible, something you can have value for yourself and for your clients. And you guys know who I am. I'm Jazz, here with Trinity Title. And I do coaching and development, just like the hands. Thanks, Earl. For my peripherals, because I'm also a mom. But before I introduce your instructors today, they're going to be amazing. I want to introduce you to Pete, if you don't already know him. Pete Melgar, love this guy. He is all over. He houses out of here, but I can't even tell you, he's probably, I would just say, lack of better terms, he's homeless because he travels.
Mobile, how about mobile?
Okay, that's fine.
That's
Okay, he's
much better.
mobile. He's homeless. Because I can say I'm
Versatile.
homeless.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Out in the water.
I can offer you water. He's homeless to bring him contracts. We need to find him a home. And so that's the best part. Good
Come on in.
morning.
Good morning.
Feel free to sign in. We were just getting started right over
Okay.
there, right
Yeah.
behind you.
Yeah, we can-
And then I'll just pick up that from you later, if that's okay. He can introduce himself, but what I'll brag about him is not only is he mobile, doesn't charge for that, he'll go all over the place. I also have a notary stamp. So I started off in the title business as an escrow officer, but I just like to partner with you in doing some of those things too. So help build your business. But as a veteran and bilingual El Salvadorian, just so you know, there's more than just Mexicano because I'm Puerto Rican. I love that fact that there is that option. So Pete, just a few words, and then I'd like to introduce the instructor so we can get started.
First of all, I'm not homeless.
You slept here last night.
Mobile, that's great.
Well, I was just having a great conversation with him. This product is great. I have a background in lending before I came over to Title. I spent 17 and a half years in the lending world doing everything from origination to wholesale to servicing. So I'm telling you, I'm excited about this product. So I hope you guys get something out of it as much as I did. But as far as Trinity goes, yes, I do offer what I call concierge services, which means I will go to you, I will go to your client, whether it's at their office, at their home. Day before Thanksgiving last month, I was closing one at 8 o'clock in Taylor at a restaurant. So, that's just what we do. There's no extra fee. We just need to allow time to schedule that, right? Let me know ahead of time that we're going to do that, and we'll get that done for you. But welcome to Trinity Title. I hope you enjoy the class, and if you ever have any questions, just consider us your source of knowledge. Just call us whenever you have anything.
Can I ask him a quick question?
Sure.
Yeah.
So remote closings outside of the state, outside the country, what kind of options are available?
Outside of the state, the city, the county is we have a partner that we partner with, and we can send a mobile notary to your client. The normal fee is about $125, $175, depending on what you want them to do. The basic service is just simply go there, notarize, bring the docs back. If we usually provide the FedEx slip for it to come back to us. Now, if we want them to scan those docs or maybe email copies to us before they put it in FedEx, that's where it may get a little bit more expensive. Sure. But it tops out at about $175 for that. Out of the country, we have a procedure that we work with most U.S. embassies or most consulates to get the closings done. Now, new technology does exist. We did a couple, maybe 3 this year already. FaceTime, where you can actually close, if you haven't heard about this. One of our closings took place completely over a cell phone, okay? What you have to know about that is this is brand new to the state of Texas, recently passed a law where you can mobile notary, video notary a transaction, okay? So, that being said, the problem that exists is that the documents have to have specific verbiage in them that the notarization was done that way. So you have to work with a lender that accepts it that way and a title company that accepts it. And by title company, I mean one of our underwriters. One of the blessings that we have here at Trinity is that we actually have 5 underwriters. That allows us to be able to pick and choose depending on the need of the client on where we can place it. The good thing is that the premiums are all state regulated, so it doesn't matter which underwriter I place it with, your client's still going to pay the same price. It's going to be seamless to you. Your guys you won't even know that it's happening. The good thing is that we're able to do a closing such as that another title company may not be able to do. So that exists, but we have to work with a lender and with an underwriter that works. So that hasn't become very commonplace in the industry, but just so you know, the ability and the techniques of all the technology is there for that. One day you'll actually be paperless, right? Your clients will actually come in and will flip over an iPad. They'll hit a couple of things. We have one lender that we already work with. It's kind of like a hybrid of that. What happens is that about 80% of the documents that a client would normally sign in a closing, they've electronically signed ahead of time. And when they show up to closing, it's usually 5 documents that require a notary. And if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't even come to the office. But then the closing goes from 45 minutes to an hour to about 10 or 15 minutes.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome.
Great question, thank you.
Yeah, I have a client who wants to close something in January in Germany where he's working. So that's why.
Well, if they need moral support, just pay for my ticket and I'll go.
Yeah, mobile notary.
It's mobile.
Mobile. Well, you guys, I'd love to introduce you to Susan with Elevate My Scores, and we have Earl with Angel Oak Home Loans, as you see with the banner right there. So I will leave them. I'm sure they're going to tell you a little bit more about them, but I'm so blessed to have you guys here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're going to get so much out of it today. And the added bonus is that you do have those 2 CE hours, so I'm going to let go so that you can capture on some of those.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
This class is also being offered again next week, next Tuesday, at our Northwest office. So you can't get 2 more hours, but you can tell your friends, right? So
Yeah.
let me know so we
That's
can get
right.
that RSVP.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Okay. Like Jess said, I'm Susan Eisenhower with Elevate My Scores. I'll tell you a little bit about the class, but we're talking about technology, and so we're trying to use some technology today. We just keep a database of everyone who has attended our classes. So by scanning this QR code with your phone, it will open up a database entry for you, and you can just type in your name and your check number and your phone number, email address, that kind of thing, and then we can stay in touch. So all you do is open up the camera on your phone, and you just show it at the little QR code. You don't even have to take the picture. And then you'll see a pop-up, like for Safari or Google. And then this little window will open, okay? You guys have the ability to do that? Or do you need? Okay, the web page there, you see where it says web page? Just click on the web page. And like I said, this just records all of your information to make sure we get the trek posting correct. And if you need some help with that, let me know. I can let you do it on my iPad, or You can actually do it on any device, even someone else's. You can enter multiple times, but it's pretty cool the way you can use technology and those little things. You can QR codes used to be really hard to do. You used to have a special app, and now most phones, it's just built into the camera function. So it's pretty easy to do. Okay, awesome. You get it? You got it? Okay, great. Okay. So this is Credit 101 for real estate. It is a 2-hour CE class. We're providing it at no charge, and we'll post those CE hours for you here in the next 48 hours for sure, if not sooner. I'll tell you a little bit about our company, Elevate My Scores. We are a credit repair company. The owner and president, Chris Bush, has been in corporate credit repair way back, over a decade ago, but then decided he didn't like the business model, didn't like the way they were going about doing their credit repair, just stretching things out and really kind of milking the clients out of their resources. And he knew there was a better, more efficient, speedier way to get clients through the process and maintain good relationships with loan officers like Earl in the process. So here they go. So I don't know if you see the family resemblance, but Chris is my brother. We are excited to work together and kind of grow this as a family business now. So I'm sort of the chief operations person here in Texas. And he helps to manage everything business-wise. And we both work with clients. We both work on maintaining relationships with loan officers and realtors. But this class came as a way to educate realtors, because you guys are on the front lines with clients that may or may not have a really good understanding of what their credit scores really mean. Okay, and so you have the opportunity, if you understand, to be a resource and to build a good, trusting relationship with them, so they understand what that credit score really means to them and what it can do for them. Okay?
So this isn't just for people that have bad credit; it's for people who are trying to build credit, first-time home buyers.
Our services, yes, but so today's class is not about our services.
Okay.
Today's class is so that you can understand what a credit score is, what it means, how do they go up, how do they go down, how it specifically works in the mortgage world. So I'm not here to tell you about our company and our services, right? That's not what this is about. If you want to talk to me about that, we'll take that offline after the class. This is education for you about credit that could help you grow your business and might help you personally as well, but then help you pass that information on to your buyers. So you have a packet with an outline from me, and there's also some information from Earl. Having him here today is going to be so great, because there are always questions that come up like, oh man, we need a loan officer to answer that question. And here he is, and he's going to be able to not only answer our credit questions, but then he's going to go into and talk to you about how Angel Oak Home Loans is really a unique opportunity to get some more people qualified, and he's going to have the opportunity to tell you all about his business and how he can support you that way too. So great. If you still have your phone handy during the class today, we would love it if you would go to our Facebook page, because we are broadcasting this class, hello Facebook, on Facebook Live today. So anybody who, it's okay, they're sitting in the back of your heads. It's all good. So anybody who has ever liked our page, any other realtors or loan officers or title reps or whatever, they're seeing it, they're like, oh yeah, there's that credit class again, right? It pops up in their news feed, and then it's just good name recognition for us. But by liking the page, anytime we post an event or we have a class, you'll see it, and then you can recommend us to a colleague or a client. You found it. There you are. There we are.
I will point out, there seems to be a technical problem. It is broadcasting sideways.
It is broadcasting
Yeah, see?
sideways. Awesome.
So, not
Okay.
sure why, but
Okay. Well, yeah, well, it usually flips it, so, okay, I don't know. So So I don't know. I'll go back there and check on it here in a second. But I'll be able to see everyone who likes the page today, and I'm going to enter your names in a drawing for this cute little coffee mug. That it would be great to put some coffee in today, or something else nice and warm to drink. So we would love it if you would do that. And like I said, we'll have a little raffle at the end. So if you have some questions during the class that are more specific to you or a client, like, hey, I have this credit report. Could you take a look at it right now and tell me something about it? And that's actually happened before. So let's take those kinds of questions offline, or send me a quick text and say, hey, Susan, I have a question about a client that needs your help right now. And then I'll make sure I'll follow up with you later. But obviously, those big general questions about the content, that's certainly, it's a small class. Just pipe up and let's have a great discussion today. Okay, so let's jump in. So tell me if you know the answer to this. Why are there 3 different scores on a credit report? Assuming you've looked at a mortgage credit report before, maybe your own, maybe a client's. Why are there 3 different scores? 3 different bureaus. Okay, all right. So their names are, do you know the names of the bureaus? Experian, and Equifax. Great. Okay, 3 different credit bureaus, and they're called Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Not everybody knows that. Now, if they're all credit scores about you, why are they different, and why are they not the same?
I think some people report to only certain credit bureaus, and then other ones don't report to certain credit bureaus.
That is definitely one thing that we see. Yeah, so like you might have a medical collection and it's reporting to TransUnion only, so it's negatively impacting your TransUnion score, right? But not your Equifax and Experian, right? So that's where you might see that one score a little bit lower. Or you might have, all of those layers of those different trade lines, that's what we call it, those accounts, reporting to different bureaus can really cause some different scores. So they have different information, right? Now, we also see that credit cards can cause a lot of fluctuation in credit scores. And what I mean by this is that they report different informations to different bureaus at different times of the month. Okay, so let me unpack that a little bit. So like you have a Capital One card, and they may report on the 1st, okay, to one bureau. And let's say you just paid your bill, right? You got a nice like 10%, utilization score, really nice and low, right? And then they might report to the other 2 bureaus on the 18th after you've run up a lot of bills. And the score that is generated on that day when the utilization is low versus when the utilization is high can really be very different, okay? So they don't always report the same snapshot to the credit bureau. So the credit bureau might be getting a really rosy picture, or one credit bureau might be getting a really rosy picture, and the other 2 might be seeing something that looks a little full up. And there's, there's no necessarily, uniform day that they report to all the bureaus. It can be different, okay? But the biggest difference and why the credit scores are different have to do with algorithms, okay? Now we hear a lot about algorithms being used in social media, like in Facebook and other things like that, but an algorithm is just an algebra problem, okay? It's just what they are using to calculate the score, okay? And they are different. Now you might be thinking, okay, so she said there, we talked about how there are 3 different credit bureaus, so then maybe there's 3 different algorithms, right? That sounds logical, right? No, there are 100 different algorithms or more that are used in the credit scoring industry. And I usually pause for effect because everyone kind of goes right at that point, right? Like I thought there were 3, and now there's over 100.
Yeah, Credit Karma is the bane of my existence. I have to explain every day why their Credit Karma score doesn't match their mortgage score.
That's right. Yeah, right. Absolutely. So now when we see a FICO score, that gives a lot of credibility to that credit score, right? So if we say, oh, this is my FICO score, that's the one that should be more important, right? And that's because FICO is the law of the land when it comes to lending decisions. In mortgages and auto loans, credit cards, right? They have all of that, that power, right? And it's because FICO is the how credit scoring came to be. Does anybody know what FICO stands for? It's okay. You're all looking at me like, I didn't know that I was going to have to answer questions today.
So
I thought I
FICO's
was just going to
different
sit
than your
here.
credit
FICO is is one type of credit score, one
Okay.
category of credit scores, right? So FICO, when I looked at this too, before I learned, I thought it was an acronym like Federal Income Credit, something like that, right? It's not. It's the named for two gentlemen, Mr. Fair and Mr. Isaac. So it's called the Fair Isaac Corporation, shortened to FICO. And Mr. Fair and Mr. Isaac were mathematicians. And in the late 50s, early 60s, it was their idea to come up with a numerical value to tell about your ability to borrow money and pay it back. Okay? So, yes, so they derived, a scoring model based on different factors and came up with a credit score number.
So they did
Okay?
algorithms before computers did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. It's math. Just do the math, right? So like back when my parents bought their very first home in the 70s, right? They didn't have a credit score, right? Because credit score didn't even come to the mortgage industry until the 80s, okay? So even though credit scoring had been invented, it didn't make its way into mortgage lending until the 80s. So it used to be, you would just take your pay stubs and your utility bills and your bank statements, your tax returns, and you still need a lot of that stuff, but that was all they had to go on. Maybe some reference letters, that kind of thing, and you would take it to the bank, right? And the bank would determine whether you could borrow money for your home. So it's a little bit different now. We definitely have all those underwriting, guidelines, but we have this credit score too, and that helps to add some information about borrowers. So now we talked about how FICO is, like I said, the law of the land, but even inside FICO, there are 49 different FICO algorithms, okay? So I just told you a credit score is not necessarily a credit score, and a FICO score is not necessarily a FICO score, okay? You really have to understand what type of credit score you're looking at to understand what it's going to do for you and what it really means, okay? Now, out of those 49, 9 of those 49s are mortgage algorithms, okay? So algorithms that are just specifically about mortgages, okay? And then out of those 9, there are 3 that are used today in mortgage lending. They are called Fair Isaac version 2, Classic 04, and Beacon 5.0. So when Earl pulls a credit report, those algorithms are being used today. And guess what? If you go down the street to ABC Mortgage Company or whatever, I'm making that up, right down the street, or such and such bank down the way, right? They're going to pull a mortgage credit report with the same algorithms. They're
And you wanna do the
proprietary.
Fair version 2.
Fair Isaac version 2,
Uh-huh.
Classic 04,
Okay.
and Beacon 5.0.
Okay.
Mhm.
Got it.
Yeah.
It's because we care about different things, right?
Yeah.
If you have a late payment on your mortgage, it's
That's
going to
a big
affect
deal.
very differently than
Right.
if you're getting
Right.
a car loan.
Credit
Right.
card late
Yep.
payment. Okay.
Now, back prior to 2008, that wasn't necessarily so. You could go from mortgage company to mortgage company on a given day and get different credit scores, because there might have been some lenders that were using some older, more lenient algorithms. Some of the other 6 in that 9, right? That maybe could have gotten a loan done, right? And so I think that, it's just my opinion, that post-2008 has driven those algorithms to be set where they are, because loans are sold, on the aftermarket, and they have to have that value. In fact, we even had a loan officer one time that contacted us they couldn't get a loan off of their books because when they used the algorithms that the three today, it fell below qualifying, and so we had to go in and do some credit work and repair in order to get the scores up to the qualifying, because he used an algorithm originally that probably was too lenient. So anyway, that's the way it goes. And then there are some industry differences that overlay on top of all of the things, the other differences that we talked to, like different information, different times of the month, right? All of that, and different algorithms. So obviously mortgage lending, has its own differences into credit scores. Auto credit scores are sometimes higher even than like a consumer credit score. They can be a lot higher. So you might have somebody that says, well, I was a 680 when I bought a car, right? But then they might be a 590 when they're pulling a mortgage score, right? It's just the difference in those credit scores. Insurance has its own credit scoring profile system, credit cards, and the internet. Let's talk a little bit about internet credit scores. You talked about Credit Karma, right? So today, when we can pull up everything on our phone, right? We can see all of our money, we can see our medical records, we can see our credit scores, everything, and we have a lot of faith and trust in that, right? So when Credit Karma says, I'm a 640, well, that's the answer, right? And you're saying, you struggle in explaining what that means.
So Credit Karma for you is like Zillow for us.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You got to trust the source, right?
And it's almost always too rosy.
Yes.
Not always, but almost always.
Okay.
So Credit Karma and lots of other internet credit scoring sites and apps use an algorithm called Vantage 3.0. And Vantage is not a lending algorithm. It is a consumer algorithm. It was created originally to be a lending algorithm, but guess who didn't like that very much? Lenders and FICO. FICO didn't like that very much, and said, you know what? Our algorithms are set, and in fact, we invented credit scoring algorithms. So basically, FICO has said that, and they fought and won, so that Vantage can only be used now in Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, that kind of thing. So FICO actually took them to court. So now Vantage is just basically a consumer credit score. So a good rule of thumb when it comes to Credit Karma and other internet credit scores is that they're about 30 to 40 points higher than a mortgage score. Okay? Just generally. Is that kind of what you see?
Sometimes it's not quite that dramatic a difference, but I'll start using that number.
Mhm.
Because I do want to buffer people's expectations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because inevitably they think I'm doing something bad to them and being unfair. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're just different. And it takes a lot to explain that when it's
Right.
the first time they've heard it.
Yeah. So one of the ways that I've heard it explained is that, a mortgage algorithm calculates the risk involved in borrowing that amount of money, right? Probably the most amount of money that anybody will ever borrow, the average person, right? And when
It's huge,
and when you explain it like that, most people go, oh, okay, right? Yeah. So it's different than a $30,000 automobile, right? It's different than an insurance policy or a $1,000 credit card. The risk is different, and so the algorithm is designed to produce that type of a score. Okay, and that's just a good way to kind of basically to talk about it. Now that doesn't mean that Credit Karma and other types of credit monitoring, I think lots of credit cards have it built into their apps. I know Capital One and Discover Card, you can pull up a score there. And some of them may even say that this is your FICO score. And if it does say your FICO score, you can scroll down probably and look in the fine print. It's probably a FICO 8 score or a FICO 9 score. And those are FICO scores, but they're consumer FICO scores. They're not lending FICO scores. okay? That's just a good way to describe it, the difference. So it's not going to be exactly the same. It's going to be higher, and it could be as much as 30 to 40 points higher. So what does that mean? That means that when somebody says that Earl guy ruined my credit, right?
Yeah, and one fast implication is
Yeah.
because you pulled my credit,
Yes.
I lost points,
Yeah.
which is almost not true ever. And even if it is
Maybe
true,
about
it's
3
2
points.
to 3 points
Yep.
at the max, but
3
most of the time
points.
it's 0.
Yeah. So just to help them understand, he didn't ruin your credit. You just need to know that mortgage credit scores all across the board, everyone's mortgage credit score is lower than Credit Karma. And here's why. If you don't take out anything else from this class today, if you can really hone in on that and help people understand what their score means and how it really depends on where it came from, consider the source, right? But if you're looking at your Credit Karma over time, right, you can tell, are my scores going up or my scores going down? So you can see the trend of increasing or decreasing. You can see something new that pops on there that you need to be alerted about. So there are a lot of good things that credit monitoring like that can give to someone. I'm not saying that it's all bad. You just have to know what that score means. So like I said, we trust everything that's on our phone, and that I think that's kind of where we are and why that is that way. So any questions about credit score numbers before we move on? No? You're pulling up your Credit Karma. It usually gets everybody
I'd
thinking
like to
about
say
it.
something. One
Yeah,
thing that,
absolutely.
people don't realize is the credit score doesn't know how much you earn or save or how you spend. It doesn't know how you invest. It knows nothing of the good. All it knows is how you perform on extended credit or bad things like bankruptcies, right?
Right.
So I have a lot of clients who are Dave Ramsey fans, and they're shutting down accounts and they're paying off debts, and they have horrible credit scores because
They're not using credit.
that's right, because this is a measure of can we make money off of this guy,
Yep.
right? Ultimately, right? So if you're paying off your credit card to 0 every month, intuitively you'd think that'd be good, but
Yep.
that's negative to a credit score because
Yep.
it's telling a lender, I can't make money off this
Yep.
person. They don't.
That's right. It's your credit score is your ability to use credit appropriately. Yeah. And if Dave Ramsey told you not to use credit and you're not using it, then that's not benefiting your credit score.
That's
right.
the only
and you
thing
can,
that I break. The only rule I break is that one.
Yeah.
and that's
On the Dave Ramsey.
I would agree with that. I would agree.
Just gotta play the game.
Just
Yeah.
because I worry about like the insurance score, like the credit scores on that, and I've seen the change that it makes on those payments.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen like a $400 difference.
It's big.
On scores.
It's big. Yeah. Unpack everything that's in the mortgage FICO scoring algorithm. So these are the percentages. There's 5 different sections. We're going to talk about each section separately and just the impact that it has on the overall credit score and some things that it's helpful to know, okay? So the largest section of your credit score is 35% payment history, okay? So this is the payment history for all of your open and active accounts. Everything that you're currently making payments on goes in this largest section, okay? All right? So notice I said open and active, right? So when those accounts close because someone told you to, or when you reach that great financial achievement and you paid off your car, like woohoo, no more car payment, right? But guess what? That car payment history is still in the credit scoring model, but it's not here in this largest 35% section, which is why loan officers say to people that are going through that process, once we, get this set, don't go paying off anything big or closing any accounts because it could negatively impact your credit score. And here's what I mean by that. So every time you make a payment, a monthly payment, you're ticking up this number here called months reviewed, okay? So like an installment loan, like a student loan or a car loan or even your credit card, every time that you have a monthly payment, that number gets higher and higher and higher, right? If you have a student loan for 10 years, right, that could be a really high number, over 100, right? And the greater that month of review number is, the more that account benefits your credit score, okay? So something like a student loan could potentially really help to benefit your credit score in terms of that months of review, right? Okay? So that's why when you get that, you make that very last car payment, number 60, woohoo, right? And you paid that off, then that account that had 60 months of review on it drops from the section, that your credit score will go down. Has anybody ever experienced that, where you've seen that you paid off a big thing like that and your score went down? And that explains why that happened, is that open active history is no longer open and active, right?
Kind of like when you total like a vehicle and then you have like gap insurance and it covers.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't know where you're I've seen that.
Because it closes that, yep,
Mhm.
opens up another, right,
Especially
loan.
premature.
Mm-hmm.
Refinance will affect you that way a little bit.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will,
Because you're
depending
paying
on
off
the
one
title.
loan and starting a new one.
Yes,
Right.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, Earl was talking about credit cards that you just pay off every month, right? So and we'll talk about credit cards because they surely do have an impact. But if you have a credit card that you don't use, that sits dormant, like in the back of your wallet for a rainy day, right? It wouldn't hurt maybe once a quarter to go and charge something on it, to put a tank of gas on it, or to just have a little trickle of a charge on it, like your toll bill or your Netflix or something like that, just to keep some activity going on that. So you have to make a little payment, right? And that will help those revolving accounts increase your month of review, okay? Because if you aren't having the activity, you're not increasing that month of review, okay?
So is it better to just like leave $10 on there every month, pay it
Yes.
down to 10?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, for lots of reasons.
Mhm.
And this
Because that
next
month's
section
review
will talk
stays
about that too.
Open, which
Mhm.
I think would be a determination of relationship and longevity, right?
Yes, absolutely. So now this 35% section is also where all of your negative information is calculated as well, okay? So all of the late payments, collections, charge-offs, bankruptcies, anything negative that's on your credit report is calculated in this section as well, okay? All right. And then just going forward, when I talk about installment versus revolving accounts, do you guys have a good idea of the difference between those two?
There's a term, like an ending, and then the other one's just constant, like the credit card,
Uh-huh.
or the difference between a credit card and like purchasing a vehicle.
Absolutely. So an installment loan, you have a scheduled monthly payment. You've got to just keep making that same monthly payment, no more, no less, right, until you're done, right? But a credit card, you've got essentially like a $2,000 loan, right? And you could spend $20 one month, or you could spend, $1,000 the next month, right? And then pay, right? And so the money kind of goes in and out like a revolving door, right?
I'll
And
make
you-
one point with installment loans. When you get below 10 payments left, as lenders, we get to ignore that out of your debt to income ratio.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
cool.
So that's why installment loans are kind of nice. If your car loan's 10 months or less away, we ignore that payment, which can be huge.
Wow.
But it's still benefiting your credit score too at that point, yeah.
Is that all lenders or you?
All lenders, that's the Fannie and Freddie guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, awesome. All right, so this next section, 30%, is amounts owed, okay? So this deals specifically with utilization, all right? And when I say utilization, I mean your credit card utilization, all right? This section has nothing to do with installment loans. It's only credit cards, all right? Now imagine if I just cover up this section right here and you look at everything else. That's your credit score with no credit card. It's like getting a piece of pizza, or getting a slice, or like a whole pizza with 2 slices missing, right? Yeah.
Would that be about 600 credit score you take out?
Yeah, if you
out of
do the math,
850?
right, take
If
the.
everything else is perfect.
That's right, that's exactly. So that means if you have everything else perfect but no credit card, you can't even barely qualify for a mortgage at that point, right? It's huge. So when, people, and how many people do you know that have no credit card because they're too afraid. They don't want to mess with it. They're afraid they're going to make a mistake, or they've seen family members handle it, poorly and don't have a good, kind of upbringing and on how to use credit, right? Or maybe they've been there, done that, and they don't want to do it again, right? They don't want to mess with it, right? If I can't afford it, I'm just not gonna mess with that, right? But what has happened then, and like we said, your credit score is your ability to use credit. If you're not using a credit card, you can't get any points in this section, okay? So that's a really big thing. If you want to get into a home loan, you've got to have at least one credit card. 2 is better, 3 is best, okay? As far as that's concerned, okay? Now, the points in this section swing pretty up and down, right, based on this limit versus balance, the utilization, okay? So the higher utilization, the more you have charged up on your cards, the less points are going to generate towards your credit score, okay? The lower your utilization, right, the less you're using those credit cards, the balances, the more points you're going to generate towards your credit score.
Is that
okay?
percentage? So if you've got a $2,000 balance and you hit $1,500 every month,
That's
but then
75.
pay it off, you're going to have less points than if you charge $100.
It depends on the reporting day. Whatever day they're snapshotting to the Bureau.
But what I'm seeing here is it says if you use it less, you get more points.
So it doesn't mean that like how many times you charge, it's that ratio, okay? So let's say if you got and then it also
could be
depends.
one charge for $1,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And it depends on what day they're reporting to the Bureau. They take that snapshot and send it off to the Bureau, okay?
So if your payment got noticed and now you're at 0, that means you're at 0% utilization.
Mhm.
But if they took a snapshot before you made your payment and you're at 1,500, now you're at 75% utilization and your score takes a hit.
Right.
Because what are the lines, 75, 50, 25? Are there other lines?
It's not necessarily lines, it's just each card has its own like silo,
Mhm.
right? And then there is also an overall utilization piece of it too. So, but we like to recommend that 20% is the sweet spot, okay? I know a lot of people say 30, and 30 is really good, but 20 is even better. Where you can get, so if you can get your utilization down to 20%, that's where you're going to see the most benefit toward your score.
And you get more benefit than a 0.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how would you do 20%? If you do $200 if you had a $2,000.
So let's say you have a $1,000 credit card and you go out and buy a $900 set of tires, you're at 90% utilization, make a $700 payment, you're down to $200 balance, right? So now your utilization's 20%, right? That's what, okay? That makes sense?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
What about authorized users? Like if you're an authorized user on somebody else's account,
Mhm.
is that going to be in that?
So when you're, and we're actually going to talk a little bit about authorized users a little bit later, but so when you're an authorized user on an account, everything about that account reflects onto the user's credit profile. Utilization, payment history, length of history, all of that, like I said, is reflected, okay? It does say authorized user on the credit report, or if you're a joint user, it would say joint user. But it still generates the same score. Okay, if that helps. Okay.
That's a huge tool in my toolbox.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, and this is often the first bit of credit coaching that the loan officers look at, right? They get an app in, and even if they're qualifying, they're going to see, ooh, can I get them into a better program if I can help, show them how getting those maxed out credit cards paid down could improve their score, and then in turn save them money over the life of the loan, right? So that's a really a big thing. But like you said, your forecasters, never tell you to have them pay it off completely, right?
No.
It's always to pay it down to $10 or $17 or something like that.
Right.
Because there's just this quirk in the way the algorithm works, and I don't know why, where paying it down to 0 is not as beneficial as leaving $10
I don't know if
there.
I'm right, but what I tell my
Right.
clients is that's because it tells the credit card company, whatever, I can't earn interest off this person, because most programs, you're not charged interest if you pay down to 0 every month, right? So really, they're carrying all this cost of maintaining you as a customer and extending money to you, and they're making no interest.
Basically,
So-
like you're cheating them.
Exactly.
yeah.
So if you go to 0 every month, they're gonna
Yeah.
penalize you for that, because that means you're not a great customer.
Mhm.
They want someone who's using it, but not too much.
Yeah.
So there's that sweet spot.
Yeah,
So
right.
is that why they'll decrease your credit limit if you don't use it?
Well, that's true too, and that's another way to
Oh,
fake this
wow.
utilization out, is
Yeah.
call in and ask for an increase in your credit line, because your percentage goes up,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
goes down,
Yeah.
even though your balance didn't change, because
Right.
the upper number
The,
changed.
the upper number changed, yeah, right, changes the math, absolutely. You can also have points taken away by being over the limit in this section too. So, but the good thing about utilization is that it's a quick fix, right? You know, once you have made that payment to lower the utilization or get it below the limit, and then it, posts again, you can see the benefit in your score. So,
And we can do it before the cycle.
yes.
So we do something called a rapid rescore, it costs money. But we can
Mhm.
actually get the statement from the client showing that they paid it down, whatever. We reach out to the credit reporting agencies, and they will recalculate the credit based on these numbers, even though the reporting cycle hadn't happened.
Hasn't happened yet.
So that we can do it in the middle of a transaction. So we can get a new credit
Mhm.
score, reprice them, and get them a better deal before we close on the loan.
Yeah.
So we do that a lot.
Yeah, okay, awesome. All right, let's move on and talk about the next section, length of history. So 15% of your credit score is a straight up average of all of your open and active trade lines. In order to max out this section, you need 25 years of average credit history. Okay, that's a lot, right? So how are you going to do that, right? How are you going to build that 25 years of average credit history up? That takes some time. Having an installment loan like a mortgage, right, can be something, a student loan, but in a lot of cases, it's a credit card that you have for that long, right? In fact, some of the super uber, high credit scores, the 825 plus credit scores that we've ever looked at, come from someone who's had an American Express card since 1975, right? Or, they have a BP gas card or something like that, an account that they've had for 30, plus years. And that's how they're maxing out that section, right? That's how they're getting to that point, okay? So this brings up authorized users. So this is a way to manipulate this section a little bit and add some length of history to the average. So by becoming an authorized user, you inherit everything about that credit card over onto your credit reports, okay? If you have some bad credit, though, you're not going to pass that back. So it's not a two-way street. It's a one-way street that just reflects all of the information, okay? Now, authorized users are not financially responsible, although sometimes, and we have a few loan officers that tell us they actually like to see the authorized user show some financial responsibility for that account in order to count it toward their credit profile for the loan. So, but that's one of those situations where mortgage companies can be a little bit different in how they view that. So I always say, in terms of, whether an authorized user situation would benefit a client, let's talk to the loan officer, because they'll tell us, oh yeah, we can definitely do that, or oh, are they making payments on that? And they can help us, to see that. There are actually times where we recommend being removed as an authorized user if there has been a recent late payment, or the balance is super high, or maybe maxed out over the limit. So it reflects everything good and bad. So that's just something to know there.
So if
Okay?
you've got first-time home buyers with a credit card, could you have their parents sign on as an authorized user and bump their credit that way?
The other way around,
They're-
they would want to go to their parents and say, pick your best account, add me to your account as an authorized
Got
user,
it, okay.
and I'll adopt all your history.
Got
Right.
it, okay.
And when the cards come in the mail, you can cut them up, throw them away. It doesn't mean you actually have access to the
Okay.
credit.
And in
It
fact,
just
you don't
means
even
you get
have
their
to have a
history.
card printed in a lot of
True.
cases.
Okay.
They may even ask you, do you want to issue a card? And you can say no, right? Parents do that for their kids a lot.
Especially
right?
college kids
Yes.
getting started.
Yes, college kids getting started to help them generate a credit score so that they can go get their own cell phone account. They can qualify to rent an apartment in their own name, get utilities in their name, right? You have to have credit in order to do all of those things, right? And as a young person, even if you've got a good job, right, and you don't have any, dings or collections or anything, it could really slow you down to get access to that. So it can be manipulated by becoming an authorized user, okay? So this is also where making an emotional decision, about closing accounts can really hurt you. And what I mean by that, let's say, this one company like Chase or somebody, upsets you and you're upset with their customer service and like, oh, I can't wait I'm just going to close that card, right? But if that's the card you've had the longest, you've had that card, 15 years and, they made you so mad. I have this new shiny card and I like it so much better. I'm just going to transfer my balance over there and be done with their, right? But now you're taking away all of that payment history, all of that length of history, and you're starting over at zero. And so it really could negatively impact your average, okay? So just to know that. And this is where also having a thicker credit profile can be beneficial, because there are sometimes you really need new credit, like you need to go open up a Home Depot card because you're doing a remodel or something like that, or you're moving and buying furniture. You need to access your credit, right? But you don't want it to tank your score. So if you just have one credit card and you have kind of a thin profile, right? Let's say you have one credit card and you've had it for 10 years and that's the only thing that you're making payments on credit-wise. But then you open up one new account at Home Depot so that you can get some stuff for the remodel, right? Now you've cut your average in half, right? Right? Now you have two accounts and the length of history is the same, right? 10 plus 0 divided by 2 is 5, right? So that's what I say. If you have a thicker profile, if you have a few things that you're making payments on, when you need to access new credit, it's not going to tank your average as much. You're going to see a decrease, but it's still, it's not going to hit that average as much as if you just have one open account. Yes?
Does that tell us that we need to think twice about like considering on a credit card? Because you can get a Home Depot, but Home Depot is only for Home Depot. You can really just go off and get a Chase or whatever.
Right. That's something that you might be able to use in other situations and for other reasons, and keep open for a longer length of time.
Right.
That's more functional.
Because it'd be harder to.
Yeah, right.
Of course, you can also kill the Home Depot card as soon as you're done with your project and then go back to where you were.
That's true.
Oh.
But when you choose the
Right.
longer term partners that you want to keep long term, then that's where you get choosy.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. All right.
Oh,
So-
one more thing.
Yeah.
Could you give us a heads up of what credit card company reports to all three bureaus? Because some only report to like 2 or 1. If you can give us a heads up of what.
Yes, in fact, we've got a really good secured card. That's a good starter card for folks that we recommend. We always refer back to creditcards.com, and they're a good sort of warehouse site with information about different credit cards, and they'll break them down by secured cards, unsecured cards. They have, really unbiased reviews about all of them, and then they're updating that information constantly. So we're checking back on there too, when it comes to recommendations. So, okay. So 10% of your score is types of credit. So it's best to have a good mix of different types of credit accounts. You can have too much of a good thing, and it can negatively impact your score. Okay. So the ideal picture to benefit you here in this section is 3 credit cards and 1 installment loan. That's the ideal picture, okay? Now that doesn't mean if you've got a mortgage and a car loan that you need, okay, so that's 2, so I need to have 6 credit cards, right? That doesn't work that way. But it just means that's how you max out this section, okay? So your score, like I said, can be negatively affected by having too many of certain types of accounts. So you can have too many store accounts, okay? You know, in a store, we're talking about Home Depot, right? Or Old Navy, or Walmart, or Target, right? All of those store accounts. Or just go through the outlet mall and go to all the stores that offer their own little in-house cards, right? A reason code will pop up on the mortgage credit report that will say too many open store accounts. We saw this on a mortgage credit report with one of our clients. And we started to look through the credit report, and we kept looking and looking and scrolling and scrolling. This client had 25 open active store accounts. Wow.
All those bonuses they give you.
That's right, exactly.
If you sign up today.
And the thing is, she paid them all on time. She was using them all. She was just a shopper, right? We looked at her address and we saw like Addison, Texas, and we're like, she must live by the Galleria. And we kind of teased her, like, you don't live by the Galleria. She said, yeah, how did you know? Oh, just a funny guess. But she was out there, trying to capitalize on the deals, right? Get the % off coupons, all of that. But it was, and even though she was using them, according to the cardholder agreement, making her payments on time, it negatively impacted her score because she had too many of them. So we worked with her to close strategically, though, right? Because we didn't want to hurt her length of history, right? We didn't want to, going back to this, we wanted to close the newer accounts, right? So we could benefit her credit score. You see how that works there? So, which may not necessarily be the ones that she wanted to close, but, she wanted the mortgage too. So, and we worked with her on that. You can also have too many financial accounts. So a financial account is a personal loan. Very often, if you have too many of them, it's because you're doing a short-term personal loan that you're getting like at places like Sun Loans or One Main Financial, Rise, CashNet USA, like the TV commercial, right? Those are the places where people are getting those short-term personal loans. I think they're often marketed as something that can benefit you, right? That like it'll help your credit, right? And maybe one of those could help to generate some activity on your, but if you're doing that in a cycle and you pay it off and you go get another one and you pay it off and you go get another one and another one, what does that look like if you're the underwriter looking at that? Yes, unstable, can't manage their finances, gets to the end of the pay period and there's no money left and they need to go borrow some money. Is that the kind of person that you want to extend a mortgage loan to, right? So, like I said, I think they're marketed as something that can help you, but in the long run, when you're doing it in a pattern, it does look unreliable, so unfortunately. Now let's talk about the last section here, new credit, okay? So 10% of your credit score deals with new credit. And this is basically because the highest rate of default happens within the first 90 days of opening any type of credit, okay? So when you open a new credit card, when you get a new loan, you're gonna see a hit to your score from this section, okay? And over time, you're gonna get those points back, okay? Just any time that you're opening new credit. They wanna see you use it, make payments on it, and then those points start to come back, okay? Now the other part of this section deals with inquiries, okay? And Earl talked a little bit about this, about how people have the perception that, if he's gonna do a hard inquiry on their credit, it's gonna drop their score 35 points, right? The answer is no. A hard inquiry, right, will drop your score anywhere from 3 to 5 points. But 3 is probably more like what we see, okay? 3 points not 30, right? Okay? And those are for the hard inquiries where you're actually applying for money or credit, okay?
And how do you get those back? Right, like for some people that are debating FHA conventional,
Mhm.
sometimes those 3 points make a difference. I mean,
Very
it
rarely
sounds
though,
silly,
because
but-
pricing occurs in 20-point increments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So unless you were right on the cusp
Uh-huh.
and it could have made a difference, the good news is it comes back pretty quick.
Okay. Pretty quick
Within a
is-
couple of months. You know.
Yeah, I'll talk about that.
Okay.
So, yeah, when you see that impact, that 3-point impact or whatever, it takes a year for all of the points to come back. We see the majority of them come back in the first 6 months though, okay? Now, the hard inquiry does stay on your credit report listed for 2 years. So when you're pulling up a really thorough, like credit report, we use a credit monitoring company that gives us all of that. It shows 2 years of inquiries, but the ones that are in that first year are the only ones that are impacting the score, and 6 months the most, right? Now, loan officers are really only concerned with the last 120 days though, right? And that's because they're looking for things that you've applied for that haven't really posted as a new trade line yet, right? So if you've gone out and you've applied for furniture, credit or whatever, if you've gone out and applied for, different types of credit, they want to know, because that's going to affect your ability to pay back the loan they're about to give you, right? So that's why they're mostly honed in on the last 120 days, okay? Now, soft inquiries are the type of inquiry where they're looking at your credit, but they're just looking, right? So when you're getting like a credit limit increase is a soft inquiry. Like a background check for a job, that's a soft inquiry, okay? They don't impact your score, but they're gonna see everything that's on your credit report, okay? Does that make sense? Okay?
And they're gonna see the same that they would see in the hard inquiry?
They're gonna see the same information, but the outcome is that they're not about to loan you money or give you a line of credit, right?
What were the examples? Background check?
Like a background check or a credit limit increase, pre-screened offers, when you get those pre-screened offers in the mail, those are, where they've done a soft inquiry, okay? So let's talk about shopping windows. Have you theoretically heard that there's such thing as a shopping window that allows you to shop around?
Yes.
Yeah? Heard about that?
Don't tell your clients. I only want them to come to me.
It's also with cars.
Right.
Yeah.
The dealerships will run it through every single.
I don't like that.
So let's talk about that. Okay, so the CFPB has said that as a consumer, you have the ability to shop around and shouldn't be penalized, right? That you should be able to compare this dealership to that dealership, this bank to this mortgage company, right, within a certain period of time and not be penalized. Okay, so mortgage inquiries, auto inquiries, and student loan inquiries have that shopping window available to them. Okay, now it's really tricky because not all the time when you're running credit does it always code the same. Okay, now in mortgages it's pretty standard that it's always going to look like a mortgage inquiry, but every now and then, maybe for a HELOC or that kind of a different mortgage product, it might show up as a financial inquiry. In fact, I've had some clients that have or friends and family members too, that say, "Hey, Susan, I remember you said that mortgage inquiries we're all going to be mortgage, but we saw this one and it said financial, but it was for my line of credit, my home equity line of credit," right? So it kind of depends. You have to know. So in the financial lending, there are no shopping windows, right? And financial lending is any other type of, like a bank loan, right? Personal loans, that type of thing. So let's come back to car loans. You guys were talking about auto loans. So a lot of those finance departments, when they're running credit for a car loan, they're running it through auto financing companies like Ford Motor Credit, Capital One Auto Finance, but they're also running it with banks and credit unions that do lots of other types of lending, Okay? So to illustrate this, a loan officer that we worked with for a long time said, hey, Chris and Susan, I have this credit report, and the guy was qualifying, and I told him he could go buy a car because he really needed to, his car broke down, he needed it for work, and I thought it was all going to work out, but his score dropped 35 points. I can't figure out why. And the new loan isn't even reporting yet. What happened? Okay, 35 points. He went shopping at one dealership and bought one vehicle, right? So we looked at the credit report and scrolled to the bottom where the inquiries were. There were 14 inquiries on that day, okay, from going to one dealership, right? 14 to buy one car. So 4 of those were coded as auto inquiries, okay, and those condensed into one, right? Then the other 10 of the 14 said financial. So they had to count individually. So he was seeing the impact of the 10, right, 3 points each, plus the 4 that condensed to 1. And that's very common in auto lending. And it's just the way that the industry hasn't quite caught up. Like, how do we code those, credit union inquiries, even though they're for an auto lending, right? It all kind of goes out that way. So just buyer beware, especially in auto lending, it can get a little tricky. Yeah.
So would you recommend that we do our research before purchasing a car and know ahead of this lender I'm gonna go with, that way they're not trying to freaking financially?
Yeah, yep, yes.
Everybody under the
Yep.
sun.
So
Yeah.
what is the window for mortgages?
30 days.
30 days? Okay.
Yeah.
And no one counts one?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So this is a good stopping point for a break, just to stretch, and everybody, kind of take 5 minutes or so. We've finished talking about the mortgage credit score, and in the second half, we're going to talk about negative items on your credit report, collections. We'll talk about identity theft and fraud, and Earl's going to have an opportunity to talk to you about any questions that you have loan related, and then go into some details about his company and how he can help you
So
too.
I know we got started late, I have another appointment. Are we going to be ending late, just so I can kind of give a heads up? Or we-
Maybe I'm going to try to end 5 to 10 minutes late,
Okay.
but at the most. But yeah, let's just take a 5-minute
Okay.
break though, really 5.
And there is coffee and water out there?
Coffee
in
and
the hall?
water right there, and some
So-
snacks, and the restrooms are right out here across from the elevators. I'm going to go try to figure out what's going on with the thing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, okay. Take a picture of that.
You might just literally rotate your phone and back, because it looks like it's
It
stuck.
didn't auto-rotate.
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
Got a bunch of people lying on the floor. on the phone.
Oh, how do we, 'cause I'm trying to show my friend the video that you're live streaming.
Uh-huh. On our Facebook page, Elevate My Scores Facebook page.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Yeah. I just ended it and they could start a new one. Hopefully.
I do like having a snack.
There it goes.
There.
Hold our breath.
My recruiting? Put my phone down. Aw, man, the traffic was bad this morning.
I told you she's pregnant, right?
No, baby's pregnant.
Mommy?
Oh, no.
It's like a popsicle.
That's cool.
That's exactly what, like, you can put business cards or something inside there, but then it also has a little kickstand that pops out like.
And that's so you can hold it with your fingers, kind of like one of those pop.
Yeah.
I don't put it on my phone because I've got the wireless charging, and so it gets in the way.
Oh.
So I think all those pop things and all
I
that are
put,
going
yeah, I
to
put
become
business cards on the
challenging.
back side there, though. That's a really great idea.
Well, it's fun to have you affirm the things I tell my clients. Make sure I'm not just
Right?
saying garbage, yeah.
Crazy Earl guy. making me do all this stuff?
We do a lot, so our credit bureau run offers us simulators.
Right, yeah.
And so then we always run the simulators and say, okay, I think we can get 20 points if you do this, and it gives us all the instructions and we work on that. But one of the most powerful tools has been the authorized user. Because we'll get college kids who have so little credit that you can't score them.
Yeah.
So we'll add the parents, and then they'll go get their own card or whatever. And sometimes that authorized user account isn't enough, like it gives them a score, but not enough for us. So what we have to then do is get 12 months of a cell phone account, 12 months of a utilities account, just to show some other.
Non-traditional trade lines.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So we have to do that sometimes
Yeah.
to make it work. But still,
yeah,
it's better than no scores.
absolutely, yeah.
Hopefully don't slow down.
She wants to slow down. She's just too. I mean,
Did you guys all figure out how to sign in?
Did you do it?
I took a picture of it though.
No, you just.
No, you just,
Sign in on the back
you just,
sheet.
you don't even have to take a picture of it, you just,
Oh, we didn't need this? Or we did?
Oh, we found
They
it.
have both. That was for Trinity.
Where was that?
This is for
So,
her to give
yeah,
the rest of the class.
Okay.
to get your CE credit, so just, you don't even take a picture, you just open the camera app and point it at there, and then a little web page opens up.
He's still
Oh,
looking.
Okay.
wow, that's
Yeah.
scary.
He's super busy, so
Yeah,
Okay.
and then she can do it on your phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
So they're coming out to show the husband tomorrow. And I've now scheduled on the next weekend.
I'll follow up with you. We haven't talked about it, but as soon as you let me know.
Yeah, let me know when you're out.
Yeah, so he's.
Just not executed yet.
Such a busy day.
Hi, today?
Have to.
You know, that's such an easy one, and let him know
Really?
that.
Is that the one from the other day?
He's working on Boston. They just have to go through it on, take all of Onion Creek out of Atlas 14,
Okay.
right? Because it's screwed so many people, like the water didn't even come close to our house.
Yeah.
But for that house,
The lady
I
that I
actually
have in,
sent into
Houston.
the new county office.
She still has another house.
Our land.
And her contingency is ending
When I
in
looked at it, I was
probably like a
you know,
month.
it's kind of about according to-
Yeah.
They dropped it
That's
around
it.
15,000.
Right, structurally, the roof is great, the AC's great, I mean, yeah.
If you haven't liked our Facebook page yet, go like it, and then I'll enter you into the drawing for the coffee mug.
The first one I home, and
Yeah.
he actually is building the house too, is down in Sherrod. It's on Shenandoah, and I think that
I'm gonna
was
unlike it where you like it.
There you go.
1,000 square foot, I think. was what I
So,
told
we're on track. My last name is something different.
But his agent-
I'll go by the number. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if I look up and I go, ooh, that isn't what she said, yeah, it's
So that's
fine.
another
Okay.
400
I
bucks a
sent
year,
in the,
right? I mean,
everything for them to change it, they just haven't done it yet, so.
They're a little slow about things like that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We needed to get some paperwork filed, and we couldn't get anybody to answer the phone. So we like drove down and parked. Went into the,
It's a walk too.
yeah, because there's all that construction right down there. Yeah. So it was a little crazy, but, yeah, but then we got it done.
I was running like crazy
So,
last night.
do you know Damon?
So I'll talk to him again. I read some numbers of it.
I don't know how to say his last name.
But
Squeak.
Onion Creek is-
Squire, Damian Squires? Yeah.
He usually does his classes, the same thing that,
He's worked with us on some classes, yeah.
okay, because he's getting ready to schedule a class.
You do a lot over there?
So he was gonna send me the date, he's been walking it in,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't realize it was the same.
That one they originally had was
It's the same.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't know,
Come again.
I don't know if it's gonna be the same class or if it's
I don't know.
But it
something
was
different.
so broken and run down. I mean, I really
Okay,
catch
well, let's go ahead and get started, because we want to make sure we get everybody out close to on time. So let's talk about building credit. This is something that, comes up. What are the best ways to build credit, to get the best credit profile? And you asked about, like where to find the really good credit cards. So,
But this is only if you don't have credit.
or you're rebuilding, right? So let's say maybe you had some issues and you're, kind of trying to put everything back together, okay? So remember we said the ideal picture on your credit profile is 3 credit cards for one installment loan, okay? But how do you get a credit card if you don't have a score, right? And an easy way to do that is to start with a secured card. So a secured card means you put down a security deposit and then they give you a credit card equal to that amount, okay? All right. A lot of banks have secured cards. Wells Fargo has one. I know Discover Card has one. There we go. Does it look better?
Is it secured? No,
Yeah.
the same as a secured
Actually,
credit card?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the same.
I think you gotta put the phone up.
Still
Yeah.
sideways.
I did. I went back and forth.
Oh,
I don't know.
Oh,
We'll play
do you
with
have it
it.
on lock, the
It's
screen?
way back.
No, it was straight when she did it and then it turned.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. I'll
Maybe,
worry about it later.
maybe they only broadcast in that orientation because it's on mobile.
Oh, could be. Could
You want me to turn it?
be. But it's charging, so I don't know that it'll work, but it's all good. Oh, it's about the SEO, really. So let's talk about why this card right here, for example, could be a better solution. Because if you go down to your bank that offers a secured credit card, they're going to run credit. And if you have a 565 credit score, you're probably not going to get that secured credit card. And then you're going to come back to me and say, Susan, you said to get a secured credit card, but they won't give me one, right? Okay, so this card right here is an example of